Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Deepshika Bhomik and I'm an HR professional with a career spanning over a decade dealing with people, processes and performance. So in the previous video we had seen what is the Balanced ScoreCard, and in the current video we are going to discuss one of the 4 perspectives of the Balanced ScoreCard. So the first perspective, as I discussed with you in the last video, was the learning and growth perspective. So what is learning and growth? So when an organization is trying to build a learning culture, the learning and growth perspective helps to enhance the competencies in the organization. So the things that we learn are the things that we are trying to excel at. Things that we are excelling at, maybe those we bring into our processes. So once we learn the processes well, then only we will be able to excel at that. And then only when we implement the processes, the customers will be happy. And thereafter, when the customers are happy, it transpires into business results. So taking that philosophy ahead, we are going to discuss today the learning and growth perspective. Let's deep dive into it. Say the company has taken to implement so many hours of learning in a year. So for every employee, you can have a mandated learning and growth perspective goal, whereupon the initiative will be to attend mandatorily, say 8 hours of training in a year. So the moment you say attend mandatorily 8 hours of training in a year, person has taken. And it is very easy to find out if people have actually taken the assessment of the trainings. So by assessment, there could be another measure whereupon you say that participating in trainings with 60% and above effectiveness. So when you say 60% and above effectiveness, ideally a questionnaire, a pre-assessment, the post-assessment needs to be done. I'm just taking 60% to be an ad hoc number. It could be 70, it could be 80, it could be 90, it could be 50 according to the requirements of your organization, whatever deems fit to your organization. So it could be 60%, which is an average first division score, when we can live with that. Another could be if you have a mentorship program, for example. So expanding the employee mentorship program, whether there have been meetings between the mentor and the mentee 100% times, whether they have met or not, if there are logs of the meetings or not, if the meetings has been scheduled, they have been honored, and what are the outcomes of those mentorship meetings, that could also be written down, forms filled up and shared with the HR. If you can also encompass innovation into the learning and growth perspective, it will be really helpful, whereupon you can have metrics like how many innovation programs have been submitted, or how many employees have taken participation in submit an idea, how many of those ideas have been accepted, how many of those ideas have been implemented, how many of those ideas have been approved by the management, and how many of those ideas which have been approved and implemented have actually shown some business results. So the innovation perspective could also come under the learning and growth perspective, or could have a different 5th parameter of perspective introduced into the system. So many companies actually breaks down this 4 perspectives further into maybe 5 perspectives, whereupon innovation is one of them, or 6 perspective where social responsibility is in one, whereupon environmental friendly companies have the social responsibility part of it as a completely different perspective. So growth oriented companies, innovation oriented companies have innovation as one of the major perspectives, which they have actually segregated over and above the 4th perspective and taking it into the 5th perspective. In the learning and growth perspective is formally divided into human capital growth, infrastructure growth, and organizational capital growth. Let's take one by one. What is organizational capital growth? So recruiting and selecting people you believe embodies the culture of your company, increase socialization and training initiatives that demonstrate what you expect from your employees, utilizing the company's formal reward system to advance the culture. Thereafter, what do you mean by the information capital? So improving the organization's technology infrastructure, leveraging the technology to manage the risks well, increase the knowledge management and information sharing channels within the organization, creating and sharing information effectively for better decision making, So it is very critical to consider the linkage between technology and strategy in business. It should reflect the contribution of IT you require in order to successfully execute your business. And the third and the final one, the human capital. Now when we talk about human capital, it is enhancing the skills, talents and know-hows necessary to support the execution of the business. So motivated people with the right kind of skills, the right kind of know-hows and expectations ultimately bring financial returns. Having the right mix of human capital is very, very critical. Capital include closing the skill gap in the strategy positions, training the employees for success, recruiting and retaining the best talent, the brightest employees. So you could have parameters or you could have measurements like the number of successors identified in the organization, the number of hypos retained in the organization, the percentage of hypos retained in the organization, the number of people with the right skills in the organization. You can have a skill matrix, you can have the competency matrix, you can have the skill gaps identified, you can train people to fill in the skill gaps, you can have the competency benchmarking identified, you can have a competency framework in place, and you can have the talent management system. You can identify position wise, have the learning hours measured that are there in that region, in that branch office, in that particular site, and you can have the difference of the gaps of the number of learning hours that the people are supposed to complete and they have completed. You can have manager wise and vertical wise different training programs organized, and you can also have the subject matter experts or the divisional leaders who are laden with lots and lots of information. They can also come and you can have measure them against the effectiveness of each of these trainers. That way you will have a pool of trainers you can pick up from in the next year. You can have the feedbacks from the trainees and you can train the trainers next year, increase the number of trainers, and you can have a learning agility graph going up. And ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what the learning and growth perspective does. In the next video, we are going to explain to you the internal process perspective, and I'm going to share the link of that video in the description box when that is made. So stay tuned and subscribe to this channel if you like the videos that are being made, if they are relevant to the work that you do, and if you would like to know more about these processes and get updates the moment I upload them. So stay with us, and there is more to come. Thank you.